Hey, Shalom Israel, Most High in Christ bless, Most High in Christ bless. This is Officer Noah with IUIC New Jersey, and today's class is From Moses to the Apostles, the importance of delegation. All right, so hopefully this is an edifying class. I have to my right
Soldier Joe.
All right, Soldier Joe's my reader today, and let's get into it. Let's start with Exodus 18 and verse 13. So what we're going to go into today, brothers and sisters, is something very important, right? Christ's government has constantly been established on the earth, and other governments have mimicked the government that was established in the Bible for the Israelites. And we're going to touch upon that government and the delegations that are needed to be successful, efficient, and effective in this ministry and even in your personal lives, whether it's for your business, for your employment, if you're a supervisor, manager, this is to improve those skills as well. We're going to look into the Bible for that edification. Let me get Exodus 18 and start at 13.
Exodus chapter 18 and verse 13. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood by Moses from the morning until the evening.
All right, so Moses was tasked to stand with the people from morning till night. And the people had to wait on Moses from morning to evening to be able to address their issues, to address the congregation, right? Jump up to verse 7.
Verse 7. And Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, and did obeisance and kissed him. And they asked each other of their welfare, and they came into the tent.
So this is Moses' father-in-law, Jethro. Jethro came to visit Moses, see his family, see his grandchildren. And Moses and Jethro greeted each other, and they asked of each other's welfare, right? How are they doing? This is one thing that we have to do, welfare checks with each other, with the congregation, with the brothers, to know the state of the flock, right? So Moses and Jethro, they inquired of each other's welfare, right? Now jump back up to verse 13.
Verse 13. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood by Moses from the morning unto the evening.
Now you got to imagine this. You got to imagine this. Moses had no life. If you have to stand in front of 600,000 people, think about what I'm saying. Think about it. If we go to court today, and let's say we're on jury duty, you got to wait around all day to get selected, right? Or if you got a court hearing, right, they say your court case is at 9 a.m., but you don't get heard till like 2:30 p.m., but you're there from 9 o'clock. It's a taxing, it's taxing on you, right? Because you got to pay for parking, you got to get a babysitter, you got to get through security, you got to wait on the hard benches, right? The hard wooden benches they got in front of the courthouse, and you got to wait to be called. And then what happens sometimes that the judge might not be able to see you, so then they'll reschedule you for another day 2 months from now. So you're not even going to allow your issue to get addressed, right? Read it again.
And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood by Moses from the morning unto the evening.
So they was there all day and all night. Look how many people Moses had to deal with judgments and matters from small to great. Now read on.
And when Moses' father and when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did to the people, he said, What is this thing that thou doest to the people? Why sittest thou thyself alone, and all the people stand by thee from morning unto the evening?
So now look at what Jethro said. He said, Moses, what is this thing that you do to yourself and to these people? You sitting around all day long and you killing yourself. You're not seeing your family. You're not having time for your children. You so preoccupied with judging these people from day to night. And there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of them. Moses, you're going to kill yourself. This is what Jethro is telling Moses, right? Come on.
And Moses said unto his father-in-law, Because the people come unto me to inquire of God.
Read.
When they have a matter, they come unto me, and I judge between one and another. And I do make them know the statutes of God and his laws.
Stop right there. So now, Moses is dealing with matters small and great. He has to deal with matters between one person and another person. So he's dealing with civil suits. He's dealing with criminal suits, right? He's dealing with a whole bunch of divisions of judgment, and he has to show the people the law. Now, this is, again, thousands upon thousands of people that stand day by day with Moses so that he could hear and give the proper judgment. Now, Jethro, right, the Lord put it in his spirit to give Moses sound advice. Now, let's read that advice. Read on.
And Moses' father-in-law said unto him, the thing that thou doest is not good. Thou wilt surely wear away, both thou and this people that is with thee.
So think about it. You had elderly people there. You had possibly some maimed people there, right? You had people that had bad backs, bad hips, bad legs. Whatever was happening, brothers and sisters had to wait around all day. It's not like you had a chair. You had rocks and stones. You're in the wilderness, right? So now think about this. Moses had to stay there, and his father-in-law was like, yo, you're going to waste yourself away. You're going to literally die here. Look at the stress that you got on your neck right now. Come on.
For this thing is too heavy for thee.
It was too heavy for him. He was stressed out. You got to think about, if you got to judge one matter is one thing, but now if you got to judge tens of thousands of matters and you doing this daily, and it's not like you can, if it's just one person versus another, it's not like that is going to be efficient and effective for you, because now you don't have the full side of the story. You don't have all the witnesses there. So you know what I mean? So this is the burden that Moses had, right? Read on.
Thou art not able to perform it thyself alone.
So Jethro's like, you can't do this by yourself. Okay, you can't do this by yourself. Read on.
Hearken now unto my voice. I will give thee counsel, and God shall be with thee. Be thou for the people to Godward.
To Godward.
Come
on.
That thou mayest bring the causes unto God.
So Moses was what? The mediator between the people of Israel, the children of Israel, and the Father, right? And to God, right? To Christ. So now he said, be to the people to Godward. Come on.
Godward, that they mayest bring the curses unto God.
The causes unto God. So you can bring the weightier matters unto the Lord, right? Come on.
And thou shalt teach them ordinances and laws, and shalt show them the way wherein they must walk, and the work that they must do.
Okay, so stop right there. So Jethro is giving Moses sound advice here, right? How to help govern the people. And this is where you see the establishment of God's government on the earth, right? This is the instance in where government and delegation starts to occur in the wilderness with the children of Israel. This is the children of Israel's institution of a judicial branch, right? Let me get that image of the judicial branch of the United States, right? So the United States has three branches, right? The executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. The executive branch is where you have the president, right, and the laws that he can veto and can pass, and you have the legislative branch in which they pass the laws. You can bring it up. In which they pass the laws, right? Whether it's federal, state, local, right? And then you have your judicial branch that interpret the law, right? So look at it. Can you blow up the judicial side for me, please? Just blow it up a little bit. Right. So here you go. You have the federal courts, right? So you have a Supreme Court, right? That's nominated, that's elected. Right, and then they got to get approved by the Senate. You have the lower federal courts that handles appeals. So there's the appellate divisions, taxes, bankruptcies, etc. go down. Then you have state courts, right? Courts on the state level, right? So you have your state Supreme Court, your Court of Appeals on the state, your trial courts, juvenile courts, family courts. Then you have courts on the municipal level that deal with, let's say, traffic violations, different ordinances with property and whatnot, right? Parking tickets, so on and so forth, right? You have all these different courts. You even have child support. You have divorce court. Thank you. You have divorce court. You have all these type of court systems that are literally in play today, right? And this is where they get it from. This is where the governments of the earth get it from. So not only that, you have your specialty federal courts who are dealing with bankruptcy, tax, federal claims, international trade, right? Going down to your appellate courts, again, your trial courts, right? This is your superior courts, your circuit courts, your district courts, and then you have those specialty or limited jurisdiction courts on the state level, such as family, probate courts, traffic courts, small claims courts, and then you have your tribal courts that deal with things dealing with Native Americans and so on and so forth, right? So you have all these different levels of courts, and this is where they get it from, the Bible, right? You have what you call the judicial branch or judicial laws, right, which come from Judah, right? The Jews' law, the Jews' way of governing, the Jews' way of judgment, right? So this is where what we're reading is the bread and butter, the start of world governments, okay, and how the governments interpret law, all based on what? God's laws, right? So let's go back. Let's read verse 20 again.
Verse 20, and thou shalt teach them ordinances and laws, and shalt show them the way wherein they must walk, and the work that they must do.
So now, Moses had to teach the people ordinances and the laws and the way they had to walk, right? So I mean what? They had to be able to learn this law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God in proper judgment, right? Now, the people who Moses had to set up, he couldn't just choose anyone to judge matters. These people had to be able men that could what? Judge righteously. They had no respect of persons and had a righteous moral compass and held their integrity, right? So he had to show them the way they must walk, right? Read on.
And the work that they must do.
Come on.
Moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men.
Provide what?
Able men.
Able men. Men that are able to what? Know the law, understand the law, and interpret the law. To process righteous judgment. Come on.
Such as fear God.
Such as what?
Fear God.
So there were requirements by these men. They must know the law, they must study the law, and they also must fear God. Right? You can't have someone judge a matter that does not fear the Lord. It's impossible because they're not reading the scriptures. They're not studying the law. They're not studying the scriptures. They're not desiring the sincere milk to grow by. Come on.
Men of truth.
Men of what?
Men of truth.
Men that keep the commandments.
Hating covetousness.
They hate covetousness because with covetousness comes what? Bribery, extortion. With covetousness comes sin. Come on.
And place such over them to be rulers of thousands and rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties and rulers of tens.
Come on.
And let them judge the people at all seasons. And it shall be that every great matter they shall bring unto thee, but every small matter they shall judge. So shall it be easier for thyself, and they shall bear the burden with thee.
And that was them being their brother's keeper, right? They had to help Moses judge the matters of the people. So the smaller matters they were able to deal with, but the greater matters, Moses had to deal with that, right? So now let's get into it a little further. So read verse 21 again.
Verse 21. Moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands and rulers of hundreds,
Come on.
rulers of fifties and rulers of tens.
That's government. That's government, right? The Lord is establishing a governmental rule, a governmental system within Israel, right? This is the start of government, right? So now these men had to fear God. So they had requirements. They weren't stupid men. They weren't just whoever you wanted to put up, right? These men had to be educated in the law. They had to fear God. They had to study the law. They had to apply the law and not be covetous. They had to judge righteous judgment, right? Not be a respecter of persons. Let's get that real quick in Leviticus 19:15.
Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 15.
Come on.
Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. Thou shalt not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty, but in righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor.
So in righteousness, you had to judge your neighbor. You had to judge righteously. And this is then when these men were set up. Guess what? Then you had, once we got into our cities, you had to set up gates, right, where the righteous judges will be able to judge the matters at the gates, right? That's the leaders of the people, right? So now go to Deuteronomy 1 verse 8.
Deuteronomy chapter 1 and verse 8.
Come on.
Behold, I have set the land before you. Go in and possesses the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give unto them and to their seed after them. And I spake unto you at that time, saying, I am not able to bear you myself alone. The Lord your God hath multiplied you, and behold, ye are this day as the stars of heaven for multitude.
So the children of Israel were innumerable. They were as the stars of heaven for a multitude. So he couldn't bear it alone, right? So this is where the application of the advice that was given by his stepfather is now being put into play. Read on.
The Lord God of your fathers make you 1,000 times so many more as ye are, and bless you as he hath promised you. How can I myself alone bear your cumbrance and your burden and your strife? Take you wise men and understanding, and know among your tribes.
So stop right there. So you needed to they needed to be wise men, men of understanding, and known amongst the people, right? Meaning what? The people had to know who they were, and they had to know who the people were, right? This is knowing the state of the flock. Come on.
And I will make them rulers over you. And ye answered me and said, the thing which thou hast spoken is good for us to do.
Right, because the people couldn't wait around for Moses to deal with everybody's matter, right? Read on.
So I took the chief of your tribes, wise men, and known, and made them heads over you, captains over 1,000s, and captains over 100s, and captains over 50s, and captains over 10s, and officers among your tribes. And I charged your judges at that time, saying, hear the causes between your brethren, and judge righteously between every man and his brother, and the stranger that is with him. Ye shall not respect persons in judgment, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great. Ye shall not be afraid of the faces of men, for the judgment is God. For the judgment is God's, and the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it.
Right. Stop right there. So that's what Moses delegating responsibility to who? The judges, the captains, the over thousands, the captains over hundreds, the captains over 50s, captains over 10s, and officers as well. Moses is now delegating the responsibilities to the judges, to the captains, right? Numbers, let me get Numbers 11 and read verse 10 real quick. So we have to understand that when Moses had to be in this position of judgment, he had to judge many people. He had to judge many matters, right? It's not an easy task. It's not an easy task, right? You got it. Numbers 11, start at verse 10.
Numbers 11 and verse 10. Then Moses heard the people weep throughout their families, every man in the door of his tent, and the anger of the Lord was kindled greatly. Moses also was displeased. And Moses said unto the Lord, wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant? And wherefore I not found favor in thy sight? And that thou layest the burden of all his people upon me. Have I convinced all this people?
Have I conceived all this people? Moses is like, are these all my children? No, come on.
Have I begotten them? That thou shouldest say unto me, carry them in thy bosom.
In thy bosom.
As a nursing father beareth the sucking child, unto the land which thou swearest unto their fathers, whence shall I have flesh to give unto all this people? For they weep unto me, saying, give us flesh that we may eat. So
the people were complaining. Yeah, thousands of people complaining to Moses about the type of food they eating. They wasn't satisfied with the manna that came down from heaven. They was complaining to Moses about the type of food they wanted, the food from Egypt. Come on.
I am not able to bear all this people alone, because it is too heavy for me.
It was too heavy. It was too stressful to deal with the problems night in, day in, day out, night in, night out with all of Israel. Come on.
And if thou deal thus with me, kill me, I pray thee.
So Moses like, look, if you're going to deal like that with me, just take me out. That's it. Take me out of the bag. Just I'm done. Kill me. Let me go, Lord. I'm over here. I got a migraine every day. Ain't no Tylenols right now, right? So Moses is going through it. Come on.
And if thou deal this with me, kill me, I pray thee, out of hand, if I have found favor in thy sight, and let me not see my wretchedness.
Right? So Moses didn't want to, commit sin. He didn't want to get driven to commit sin, and he had to deal with this and be in the midst of sin by him getting frustrated with the people. Come on.
And the Lord said unto Moses, gather unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be the elders of the people, and officers over them, and bring them unto the tabernacle of the congregation, that they may stand there with thee. And I will come down and talk with thee there, and I will take of the Spirit which is upon thee, and will put it upon them, and they shall bear the burden of the people with thee, that thou bear not thyself alone.
Right. So now the Lord has said to Moses, look, get 70 elders, and I'm going to put the Spirit I put on you, I'm going to put it on them to help you bear this burden. Right? Now Moses, think about it. Again, he's old, right? He's dealing with all the stress of the people, all the matters of judgment, and now the Lord is giving him a relief, right? So now the Lord is delegating responsibility to Moses, right? And now Moses is going to delegate the same responsibility. Verse 24.
Verse 24. And Moses went out and told the people the words of the Lord, and gathered the 70 men of the elders of the people, and set them around about the tabernacle. And the Lord came down in a cloud, and spake unto him, and took of the Spirit that was upon him, and gave it unto the 70 elders.
So now the Spirit that was on Moses is now upon these men to help Moses carry the burden of the children of Israel. So we got to see the plight that Moses had in terms of judging the people, right? And this same plight, again, this is where we see governments of the earth establishing their judicial systems of rule, their legislative branches and their executive branches, right? This is all what order and structure of God's government. And this government, what we're going to see throughout the Bible is that this thing has been established throughout the scriptures and is on the earth again today. This same government is now back in full effect, right? So Moses had to deal with the children of Israel, hundreds of thousands of people. Jethro gave him advice to say, hey, look, now you have men set up that can help you relieve the burdens, relieve the people's burdens, and this way you're not going to kill yourself, right? And Moses had to deal with the people. Moses had to deal with the stresses of the people, with all the issues, all their problems, and it was a lot. That's a lot to deal with. Y'all got to really imagine that. Y'all got to like put yourself in his shoes and think about if you had to judge 10 matters a day, if you had to judge 15 matters a day, if you had to judge 250 matters in that day, right? Not even the white man's court deal with that many court cases in one day, right? So let me get the definition of delegation. So let's get into it. What does it mean, delegate, to delegate? What does it mean to delegate? Okay, so read the first one, Joe.
Commissary.
No, I don't want this. I want the definition.
Definition of delegate. A person sent or authorized to represent others.
To represent others.
Represent others. In particular, an elected representative sent to a conference.
Sent to a conference. Okay, so you have a representative, an envoy, an emissary, a commissioner. So this is a delegate, right? Now, what is the other verb of delegate? The other definition.
Entrust a task or responsibility to another person, typically one who is less senior than oneself.
Okay, so now you have the noun and you have the verb. You have the noun of delegate and you have the verb. Well, right now we're going to deal with the verb. To entrust a task or responsibility to another person. So to entrust a task or responsibility to someone means that you have to know them. You have to prove them, right? A lot of times we have brothers coming through, let's say the MOV program, and then they come up and become young men, young soldiers, whatever, right? You also have the stewardship program where people from the body are coming in and they want to contribute, and with their talents, they want to contribute to the betterment and the prosperity of the body, right? So delegations must happen, right? You must entrust the people with the responsibilities, which when you delegate and you give people responsibility, you develop competence in that person, you develop confidence in that person, and you develop a level of faithfulness in that person. Because when you decide to entrust someone with a task, that level of faith that they must carry out that task, and you entrusted them with that task, so it creates a level of faith in that person, and that person has a level of faith in the Lord because they know they're serving their Lord, they're serving their God, so they're going to do their best to bring forth the best possible outcomes. So now, how did Christ delegate tasks to his disciples, right? Now, let's deal with Christ. We're going to fast forward a little bit. We're going to jump into the new, right? So as the old, so is the new, right? There's nothing new under the sun. Let's deal with Matthew 25:14 real quick. So what about Christ? So Moses had to deal with the people in judgment and matters, and he delegated, right? He delegated responsibilities, created the structure and government of the Lord. And now let's see Matthew 25:14.
Matthew chapter 25 and verse 14. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey.
Stop right there. So he gave everyone talents, right? According to their what?
According to his several ability.
According to their several abilities, right? According to what they're capable of doing, meaning what? You must be able to delegate properly and responsibly, because if you give someone a task that they have no idea how to complete, you're setting them up for failure, right? They don't have that talent developed yet. Not saying they can't develop the talent, but you're going to set them up for failure if you don't give them the proper task. So meaning what? You have to know the state of the flock. You have to know their strengths. You got to prove them first. You have to know their strength and their weaknesses in order to delegate properly and responsibly, right? Now, in the first layer of this, before we move on, in the first layer, you have delegated tasks of like lesser responsibilities or lesser tasks that are more menial in nature, right? That you can actually assign and give specific instructions to the brother or the sister in which you need them to accomplish, right? So in all your potential leaders, you're going to have a more direct line of communication of the tasks that are needed at that level, right? So at this level, you're going to delegate responsibilities based on their strengths and knowing what their weaknesses are, right? And you're going to build that person up accordingly so that they know exactly how to do the task. So you're going to be very specific in details in terms of you want to give them the vision of the task. You want to give them the details and the instructions of the task. Maybe give them a potential checklist of how to go about accomplishing the task in a timely fashion, right? And that's going to help that person grow. It's going to help the person see the task at hand and see how to go from one point to the end point, right? From the starting point to the finish line. It's going to give them a vision and establish a methodology of accomplishing a goal in a timely fashion, right? So now Christ, when you read the power, read that verse again.
Verse 15. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. So right there, straightway took his journey. Now the same with the apostles. Give me 1 Corinthians 12 verse 7. 1 Corinthians 12 and 7. And we're coming right back. 1 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 7.
Come on.
But the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man to profit withal.
Read.
For to one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom. To another,
Start at verse 4. I'm sorry.
Verse 4. Now there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are differences of administrations, but the same Lord.
Come on.
And there are diversities of operations, but it is the same God which worketh it. But it is the same God which worketh all in all.
Verse 11.
Verse 11. But all these worketh that one and the self same Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will.
Right, that's what we just read in Matthew 25 and 15. He divided the gifts, the operations, and the administrations of these talents of the people according to how he has it fit in his body. Right? So the skill sets that y'all come into the body with cannot be neglected. Don't forget about them. You learn those skill sets to come into the body so that you can build your nation, help progress the people, right? There's a land fund that's being fundraised for currently, right? Now, in this land fund, it's not just a place to hold a feast day. We're just not looking for a building. We're looking to establish a city. We're looking for a hospital. We're looking for hospice care. We're looking for our own police department. We're looking for our own government. We're looking for housing. We're looking for agriculture, right? We're looking for all these things that go into building up a city. These are the bodies that and the talents that are going to be needed to establish the Lord's body, right? This is, it's not just one track minded. It's not, hey, we're going to party all night long. Of course we're going to enjoy our feast days. Of course we're going to celebrate the Lord's feast because no one else on the earth is doing it. But these talents and abilities and several gifts that are coming into the body, and they're going to be coming in by the thousands, by the hundreds, right? We're going to have to be able to know that state of the flock. You're going to have to be able to delegate responsibilities accordingly, right? Let's go back to Matthew 25 and verse 15 again.
Matthew chapter 25 and verse 15. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey.
Come on.
Then he that have received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them other 5 talents.
So the brother who got 5 talents, he multiplied that talent. He doubled it, right? He doubled the talents. He doubled what he was given and made an increase, right? And then read on.
And likewise, he that have received 2, he also gained another 2.
He also gained another 2. Now, with the skill set and gifts and talents that they possessed, they were able to multiply the works. And how does that work become multiplied? Because you start to teach others. You start to grow other leaders up so that they can start to assist. And this is what you call fruits, right? Fruits of your labor, fruits of your work, right? This is what was happening. These brothers were developing their talents and multiplying them, and now allowing the others to also learn and build and grow. And this is what the government's all about, right? Diversifying talents and gifts and distributing accordingly throughout the body as Christ has need, right? And what we're tasked to do is to help the brothers and sisters reach that potential, reach that maximum, right? So now read on.
But he that have received one went and digged in the earth and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoneth
with them.
And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents.
Come on.
Saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained besides them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things.
Stop. He said, read that part again.
I will make thee ruler over many things.
So he said, thou hast been faithful over a few things, and I will make you ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord, right? So now think about that. If you are faithful in little things, a few things, how are you now gonna be given that faithful responsibility of over many things? Now, we're gonna come back to this point. I want y'all to remember this point real quick. Go to Luke 16 and 10. Luke 16 verse 10. Luke 16 verse 10. Given faithful in much, faithful in little, and faithful over much. We all know that saying. I think Spider-Man tried to use it too. Come on.
Luke chapter 16 and verse 10. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much.
Stop. So, for example, if you're in the sanctuary, for example, the sanctuary got to get clean, right? I'm going to just use this point here. Sanctuary got to get clean. The sanctuary needs paper towels. The sanctuary needs soap. The sanctuary needs brooms, mops, all these things, right? The sanctuary needs food to feed the people. The sanctuary needs to keep the lights on. All these things, right? All these duties that are needed to be sustained in the sanctuary have to be distributed accordingly, right? And as you read in Corinthians, the most feeble is the most important in the body, right? So it's not like these tasks. If these tasks go to waste, if the brothers are not taking out the trash during the sanctuary, during the Sabbath days or while the sanctuary school is open, guess what? The trash is going to pile up. It's going to stink. It's going to create pestilence in the school. It's going to have flies and fruit flies and gnats and all kinds of mice and rats and everything coming into the sanctuary because it's not being well kept, right? So for that little bit, if you're faithful over that, you're able to do that task diligently, faithfully, executing that in a timely fashion, then that's proving that you can take on greater tasks when it's time to say, hey, who else can we use to handle this responsibility? This is a greater responsibility, right? But who else can we choose within the congregation that has shown themselves faithful? And this takes time, right? This is faithful over little things. Now, again, we're going to revisit this point, but being faithful over little things is very important. It's very important because it's going to establish your ability to have delegated responsibilities over greater matters, right? So the disciples were given tasks and responsibilities. Some were great and some were menial. Some were like of low tasks. For example, when Christ commanded, go to Matthew 21 verse 1. When Christ commanded the disciples to go get the colt that he can ride into the town with, right? Matthew 21 verse 1 and 2.
Matthew chapter 21 and verse 1. And when they drew nigh unto Jerusalem and were come to Bethpage, unto the Mount of Olives, then sent Jesus 2 disciples, saying unto them, Go into the village over against you, and straightway ye shall find an ass tied, and a colt with her. Loose them, and bring them unto me. And if any man say aught unto you, ye shall say, The Lord has need of them, and straightway he will send them.
Stop. So that was a menial task. He said, listen, go get the colt and tell whoever it is, if they got an issue, just like, I need it. The Lord needs it. And they're going to be like, all right, no problem. Take it. Right? So that's a menial task. Go get a colt. There's nothing crazy. There's nothing heavy. There's nothing crazy about that. Right? Go to John 4 verse 2. Letting you know, like, even the disciples did little tasks. They weren't too busy and too proud for it. Right? John 4 verse 2.
John chapter 4 and verse 2. Though Jesus himself baptized not, but his disciples.
Come on.
He left Judea and departed again unto Galilee.
Come on.
And he must need go through Samaria. Then cometh he to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near the parcel of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph.
Come on.
Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus therefore, being wearied with his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus said unto her, Give me to drink.
Come on.
For his disciples was gone away unto the city to buy meat.
What did his disciples go to do?
Away unto the city to buy meat.
The disciples weren't there to give Christ a drink. right? So they were sent to the city to go buy dinner. To go buy dinner. That was a menial task. What I'm trying to, what we can see is that even Christ delegated the smallest responsibilities to the disciples. If they were faithful over these small tasks without complaining and murmuring and all that, then he's like, now I can possibly give them greater tasks later on. Now, for example, Matthew 26 and verse 18. Just going over a few examples, brothers and sisters, a few examples.
Matthew chapter 26 and verse 18.
Start at 17.
Verse 17. Now, the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying unto him, Where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover? And he said, Go into the city to such a man, and say unto him, The master saith, My time is at hand, and I will keep the Passover at thy house with my disciples.
Read.
And the disciples did as Jesus had appointed them.
Or delegated to them, come on.
And they made ready the Passover.
Now today, to make ready the Passover for the nation of Israel is many working parts, right? The captains, the deacons, everybody's involved. Everybody's involved in the procurement side of it all. They're involved in the actual technical side of it all. There's so many moving parts, right? To prepare lamb, right? To prepare the lamb for thousands of people. There's so many working parts. This is a great responsibility that the apostles had, the disciples had to accomplish, right? So that the Lord can keep the Passover before his death. We read these things, but we kind of don't see the great responsibilities that were getting put upon these men at this time, right? Give me, for example,
Matthew chapter 28 and verse 19. Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world.
Now that's a greater responsibility and delegation that the Lord put upon the disciples, right? He said, now go into all the earth and go spread the gospel. Go to the lost sheep. Give me so that the people don't get confused. Deuteronomy 4:27. This is who these nations are, so y'all not confused. It's not talking about every single person on the earth. What happened? The children of Israel were scattered abroad. They were scattered throughout all nations for their sins against God. Come on.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 27. And the Lord shall scatter you among the nations.
So the children of Israel were scattered among the nations. Come on.
And ye shall be left few in number among the heathen, whether the Lord shall lead you.
So not only that, the children of Israel were scattered in these nations. They were the fewest in these nations. Right? Come on.
And there ye shall serve gods, the work of men's hands, wood and stone.
Right. So stop right there. Let's go to James 1 and 1. So it didn't change in the New Testament. That never changed. James 1 and 1.
James chapter 1 and verse 1. James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting.
So to the 12 tribes scattered abroad. So when Christ sent the disciples out, he sent them to what? Go teach the 12 tribes of Israel. It wasn't talking about all people, all nations on the face of the earth. The gospel was specifically for the children of Israel that were fallen out of the way of the Lord, right? Meaning the northern kingdom that became Gentiles, right? Some of the southern kingdom that were Gentiles, they had to come back into the fold. That was the purpose of Christ's death, to unify the children of Israel once again, the 12 tribes, right? This is why James, Peter, they're speaking to who? Those that were scattered abroad, right? Read that part again.
James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting.
Right, so they were scattered to the 12 tribes. So that's a big delegation. And that's what you see happening today, right? That's what you see happening today. Now, after this point, right, then you had, in the book of Acts, you had Peter, who was given the responsibilities of delegating to the southern kingdom. And you had Paul, who was given the responsibility of delegating to the Gentiles or the northern kingdom of Israel, right? Read that real quick in Galatians 2, verse 7.
Galatians chapter 2 and verse 7. But contrariwise, when they saw that the gospel of the uncircumcision was committed unto me, as the gospel of the circumcision was unto Peter. For he that wrought effectually in Peter to the apostleship of the circumcision, the same was mighty in me toward the Gentiles.
Stop. So, meaning what? The Lord delegated responsibility to Peter to teach the circumcision, or the Jews, right? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. And to Paul was of the Gentiles, or the northern kingdom, the other tribes, the other 9 tribes. You understand? That was a greater responsibility of that was delegated to the Israelites, right? So, for example, Paul sent Timothy to the Philippians, right? Read Philippians 2 verse 19. Philippians 2:19.
Philippians chapter 2 and verse 19. But I trust in the Lord Jesus to send Timothy shortly unto you, that I also may be of good comfort when I know your state.
So he sent Timothy to what? Give a report of the congregation. He had to know the state of the people. So he would send Timothy to learn of the state of the people, right? This is a big responsibility. This is why you have leaders visiting different schools, right? Visiting different congregations, so they can gather reports of what's happening in this region of the earth, what's happening in that region of the earth. And this is why once the churches are established, they must go back out to confirm the souls of the people, right? Give me another example. Give me Philippians 2:25.
Philippians chapter 2 and verse 25. Yet I suppose it necessary to send to you Epaphroditus, my Epaphroditus,
I got you.
my brother and companion in labor and fellow soldier, but your messenger and he that ministered to my wants.
Right. So Paul sent who? Epaphroditus, right? To inquire about the people as well. Give me 1 Timothy 1 verse 3. So these are what? Delegations and responsibilities in the time of the apostles. Come on.
1 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 3. As I besought thee to abide still at Ephesus, when I sent into Ephesus, when I went into Macedonia, that thou mightest charge some that they teach no other doctrine.
Read it again.
As I besought thee to abide still at Ephesus, when I went into Macedonia,
read verse 2 so we know who we're talking about.
Verse 2. Unto Timothy, my own son in the faith, grace, mercy, and peace from God our Father and Jesus Christ our Lord.
Come on.
As I besought thee to abide still at Ephesus.
Stop. He sought who? Timothy to go to Ephesus and stay there for a period of time. That's a delegated responsibility. Right? So what we're seeing is that there were delegations of greater responsibilities and lesser responsibilities. And when you were proven that you were responsible and capable of little, being faithful over little, you were given much greater responsibility. Right? That's what you see throughout the Bible. Give me Colossians 4 verse 7. Colossians 4 verse 7.
Colossians chapter 4 and verse 7. All my state shall Tychicus declare unto you, who is a beloved brother and a faithful minister and fellow servant in the Lord.
So Paul sent Tychicus to where? To the children of Israel at Colossae, right? So he sent them to give an update on how Paul's doing, and to get an update for Paul of how the church is doing, right? Drop down to verse 16.
Verse 16. And when this epistle is read among you, cause that it be read also in the church
of the Laodiceans,
and that ye likewise read the epistle from Laodicea.
So he had to give an update to the people in this area, in this region at Laodicea, right? And then he also needed to get an update from the church of Laodicea. So these were what? Delegates, right? Delegates that were sent out, delegations that were sent out to minister to the people, to learn of their state, and to report it back, right? So now, those are some examples of the disciples and Christ's delegation. Luke 19:12, real quick.
Luke chapter 19 and verse 12. He said, therefore, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. And he called his 10 servants and delivered them 10 pounds and said unto them, occupy till I come. But his citizens hated him and sent a message after him, saying, we will not have this man to reign over us. And it came to pass that when he was returned, having received the kingdom, then he commanded these servants to be called unto him, to whom he had given the money, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading.
Come on.
Then came the first, saying,
Meaning by trading, meaning based on their understanding. Come on.
Then came the first, saying, Lord, thy pound hath gained 10 pounds.
So one of those 10 said, look, the pound you gave me, I got 10 pounds off of it, right? Come on.
And he said unto him, well, thy good servant, because thou hast been faithful in a very little, have thou authority over 10 cities.
Stop. Was he faithful over the people or over a task? He was faithful over the very little, and as a result, he was given a greater task responsibility over the people, over 10 cities. This is what you see the captains and the deacons and the bishops doing right now, and the officers. They're going to different countries. They have schools in different continents of the world: Europe, Africa, South America, Central America, North America, right? In North America, you have Mexico, Canada, you have the United States. In Europe, you have Germany and the UK, and you have all these different countries. Now, you even in India, you have men in India. Just like Thomas in India. Our captain and beloved deacons are in India. They go throughout the earth because they were given tasks. They were faithful over little, and now they were given over 10 cities, countries, regions, hemispheres, the world. This never changed. The government of God has never changed. And this is what comes with potential leaders, right? Those are the leaders that you have a more direct line of communication, right? Progressive leaders, right? You have a more of a proven faithfulness here with these men, right? Because they were responsible over smaller matters, and they proved themselves over time with these smaller matters, and they were ready for greater responsibility, greater matters, right? Some of these tasks may be supervision over offices, departments, schools. They have detailed reporting, right? They organize events, camps, marches, blitzes, so on and so on. These are things that these men that were proven or have been proven, they show themselves faithful, and they were given greater responsibility. Right? Same with the apostles. Same with the disciples. They were faithful over little, and now they're given a greater responsibility over the people. So how do we translate from things to people? It comes down to your belief. It comes down to your faith. It comes down to your fear of God. Right? You have to be studying, praying, applying, keeping the laws of God. Right? And if you're not doing that, you're not going to be able to grow. You're not going to be able to move forward and do the works of the Lord. You're not going to have it in the spirit to do so, right? You have to examine that within you so that you can grow by the sincere milk, right? By knowing the law, judging righteously, being around those of judgment, learning how to delegate, how to grow. You got to see the task that you're being given now as a young man and build on that until you can be trusted and given more responsibility as an older man or brother or sister, right? So in this level of progressive leadership, you're going to be over offices, departments, regions, schools, because the way the gospel is spreading, the way the truth is growing, it's no longer just in this small this small section. It's grown so far that men have to travel to this state, to that state, to this city, to this country every other day, every other month, every other week. It's like that because the the gospel must be spread, and we're getting closer and closer to the end time, right? So this is where coaching can be implemented, right? This is where, as one who delegates, as a manager or let's say a senior officer, you're delegating responsibilities, and now you can coach someone. They'll that person you delegate that responsibility to, they'll be able to develop a team, develop a task. They'll be able to accomplish these things while reporting to you. And so what has to be established is a clear line of communication. Without a clear line of communication, you're not going to be able to see the work through, right? So once they're able to report their work, develop their teams, assign their roles and their tasks, which they learn from previous years of delegation and accomplishments, right? With counsel, they're going to report and confirm the next tasks that need to be done. Once all the tasks, the person that delegated or the delegator, he will, or the senior leader, they will be able to say, okay, great job, this task is done, right? On the potential side, when you're coming into the truth, you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to get it right away, right? It's going to be some small tasks. It's not going to be on the big forefront, and that's for you to grow, right? When we make mistakes, we got to learn. We can't be stuck on stupid and on that mistake that we've made, right? We have to grow. Say, okay, I did this wrong. How do I do it better? And this is why we say give more direct roles, direct tasks, so that they'll be able to know exactly how to get it done, right? And that help them grow, right? And then you have those proven leaders, right? These proven men, they have experience. They have time in this truth, right? They have the understanding of the scriptures, right, of the prophecies. They are capable of having tasks delegated to them with full responsibility and counsel, right? Which means what? These are your senior officers, your captains, your deacons. These are the men that's going out to the four corners of the earth, establishing congregations for 3 months at a time, right? These are the brothers that are faithful to and of course we all have to report to somebody, just like the 70 elders had to report to Moses, right? Just like these officers and captains that of thousands and all that had to report to Moses, just like the disciples had to report to Christ, just like the apostles had to report to Peter and the 12. All these brothers always had a line of communication to who? To a senior man, right? This is the government of God, right? And then so when the men of the Lord go out to teach, to bring the gospel, to spread the gospel, guess what? Now they're over 10 cities. They're over countries. They're almost over hemispheres. They're over continents, right? Because they were faithful in little, and now they're given much, right? And in the kingdom, we're going to be ruling 10 cities, 10 countries. You understand? That power is going to be given to us by our Lord and Savior, right? Luke 22:24. So I'm going to go into, before we close out, I'm going to go into a few points of delegation. I want to read this first, and then I want the last thing to help the brothers, the young men, come in for knowing how to better be efficient in their task. Come on.
Luke chapter 22 and verse 24. And there was also a strife among them, which of them should be accounted the greatest. And he said unto them, the kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and they that exercise authority upon them are called benefactors. But ye shall not be so. But he that is greatest among you, let him be as the younger, and he that is chief as he that doth serve.
Right, so he that is chief as the one that does serve, because that's what Christ came to do. Christ came to what? Be a servant to the people. That's what he was teaching us to be humble, to be a servant, and to see the people as those that are in need, not being rulers over them, right? Although you're put as a leader over the people, you're always there to serve. Moses served, Christ served, Peter served, Paul served, the apostles served, right? They went to go serve the people. They always had that humble spirit. So a few key pointers to those who delegate or that want to become better managers, right? You got to know what to delegate, right? The number one, you got to know what to delegate, what kind of tasks you can give, and that knowing the strengths and weaknesses of the brothers and sisters that you're delegating those responsibilities to. 2, you got to know the strengths and weaknesses, right? 3, you have to have a desired outcome. You have to define that outcome for the people, right? So people on your team, you got to define that outcome for the people, right? And then you have to provide the right resources and the level of authority for them, right? So you got to give them training. You can't just assign a task and not train the people. You have to train them properly. You have to give them the proper resources to accomplish their job, right? And they have to have a certain level of authority, because you have to say, I need you to be over this. I need you to oversee this, right? And report it back to me, right? And this is where you don't really have to come in and micromanage as much, right? Come on, sorry. And then you have to establish a clear communication channel, and that's essential and crucial for success. So reports, updates are needed, meetings are needed, and a detailed notes of the meetings for reference sake, right? So you can't have delegation of responsibilities without it being documented. Once it's documented, you're able to go back and see the delegated responsibilities, and this will help the manager, the supervisor, the officer be able to see what tasks he delegated, and it also help the delegatees to be able to see what tasks they must accomplish. Right now, you have a reference point, you have notes. These things are going to be a mode of success, right? This would be good for both sides. It would serve as a reminder for the delegated tasks, right? Then you have to allow some room for a form of failure, right? Not everything is going to go the way you want it to be. This is where you have to teach. You have to give the people the proper insight, the proper way to get job done. Over time, they'll get it done. Over time, you won't need to consistently do that. But in the beginning, yes, there are going to be some failures. This is where you coach them up, you bring them up, and you teach them properly, right? And then one of the major keys is that you got to be patient. You can't expect everything to happen like this. We want it like this. A lot of times it needs to be like this. But we have to learn to be patient. And our patience possess ye our souls, right? So you have to learn to be patient. Not everything's going to happen right away. People have to grow. People have to become more effective and efficient in their task. And by giving them those roles and responsibilities, they will do it. They will do it because they're faithful in those little things, right? And you have to deliver feedback, right? What were we able to accomplish this week? Where are we at now? Right, and then you have to also be able to receive feedback. Get to know what's being, from the team, from your team. Get to know, hey, what was your hang-ups? Where were your roadblocks at? How can we accomplish this faster, more efficiently? Where do we go wrong? You have to ask your team, how do we improve? They're going to give you proper feedback, right? And then you got to give credit where credit is due. If a brother or sister is doing a great job and a great task and they're busting their behind, hey, give them that credit, right? If you don't, it's going to diminish the spirit. They're going to work all this hard. You can't even exhort them. That's what the scriptures say, exhort one another daily, right? So this is what we're supposed to do. So play that video for me, cue the video. And this is going to be a task for those who actually have delegated responsibilities, how to prioritize these responsibilities. So let's play that, please.
Have in common is that
Put the volume up.
Time managers. I am going to give you the very finest time management ideas ever developed.
Volume.
The first idea, the most important of all, the core, is goals. What are your goals? What is it that you want to accomplish in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years? The top 3% in every field have goals. The balance of the population have either very vague goals or no goals at all. So the question you have to ask yourself is, who am I? Where am I going? What do I want to accomplish? Point number 2, which is organized plans of action. Now, what is an organized plan of action? An organized plan of action is where you take your goal, you take your objective, and you write out every single step that you're going to have to follow in order to accomplish that objective. You write it out and you list all those plans of action, all of those different activities, and you organize them together into a plan that you can then implement on a day-to-day basis. The third point in excellent time management is analysis. Make a list. In fact, it's been discovered that if you make a list before you begin any task or job, you will immediately improve your productivity by 25%. The most important reason for using a list, though, is that when you use a list and you work down the list and you check things off, each time you check something off on a list, it gives you a feeling of accomplishment. It's been well said that happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Okay, now the fourth principle for effective time management is to set priorities. It's interesting, there are many people who have goals, vague or clear. There are many people who do make plans, but the biggest single problem in human life is setting priorities, determining what is relevant and what is irrelevant. Highly effective people work on the vital few versus the trivial many. Ineffective people work on the trivial many. They work on things that are fun. They work on things that are easy. They work on little tasks, fun tasks, irrelevant tasks, but they keep putting off and delaying working on their major tasks. So the key to success is always be asking this question: what is the most valuable use of my time right now? I'm convinced that if all you did was organize your life and only work on the most valuable use of your time, that alone would be enough to make you an effective, efficient person. The fifth key idea in time management, which I am a fanatic on, is concentration. Concentration. People come to me in my seminars and they say, well, I never learned how to concentrate. I can't concentrate. How do I learn to concentrate? Learning how to concentrate is absolutely essential to success. As a matter of fact, it is impossible for you to accomplish anything worthwhile in life without the ability to concentrate single-mindedly on one thing at a time and stay with it until it's complete. In fact, time and motion studies have shown that if you start a task and you put it down and you come back to it and pick it up and start it and put it down and come back to it and pick it up, that it will take you as much as 500% of the necessary time to do a task than if you picked it up and carried it through. Once you have made a list of what you have to do, organized your goals, determined the highest and most valuable priority, then pick the most important thing and begin working on it and stay with it until it's finished. Now people say, well, if I stay with this task until it's finished, I won't get anything else done. That doesn't matter. If it's the most valuable thing that you have to do, it's the most important thing that you could be working on. Now it's a wonderful thing. When you concentrate and work intensely on an important task, it gives you a feeling of energy and enthusiasm. When you complete an important task, your self-esteem goes up. You feel like a winner. You feel great about yourself. But if you work away on low priority tasks, even if you complete them and do them well, you don't get any bang for the buck. You don't get any excitement or thrill from doing something that's not important. So concentrate single-mindedly on one task at a time. Do first things first and do things one at a time.
All right,
There's
all
one
right.
thing that all successful people...
Hopefully we can apply that in the delegated responsibilities that we receive, right? The delegated tasks that we get, right, is prioritization, right? Choosing which tasks are priority, right? And then establishing a means to an end, right? That comes with your planners, that comes with your lists, right? Your checklists, so on and so forth. All these things are extremely important to accomplishing a single task. And you do things one at a time, and once you do one at a time, then you'll get it done, right? There was a military guy from the Navy that he did a speech from about Navy SEALs, and the number one thing that they do the first thing in the morning, and I usually play this for the brothers in the MOV program, is they make their bed. That's the first task. They just make their bed. No matter what happens, this small menial task, it has a great effect on their mind because they organize their life before they leave, and when they come home at the end of a terrible day, they still have a made bed ready for them to hop into, right? And that does something for the psyche. Right, so just the smallest tasks we have to put our focus on, right? A lot of us get distracted by the phone and this, that, and the third, right? But remember, to become a delegation or an emissary or a missionary or an apostle, a commission, you have to be responsible over those delegated tasks that were given to you, right? So to become delegates or delegation, to want to travel, to want to go do the work, you have to be responsible for the little things to be faithful over the greater things. All right. The final scripture here, Isaiah 9, verse 6 and 7. We're going to close out with this.
Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder.
So Christ's government is established on the earth and will be established as the only government on the earth. Come on.
And his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace.
Come on.
Of the increase of his government.
The increase of what?
Of the increase of his government.
Of his government. Come on.
And peace there shall be no end. Upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it.
To do what?
To order it.
That's what you see now. We're ordering God's kingdom. We're ordering it right now before the eyes of everybody. Come on.
And to establish it with judgment.
With what?
With judgment.
So just like in the time of Moses, the kingdom had to be established with judgment. Right? The law, the judgment of the people had to be established with righteous judgment. Come on.
And with justice.
And with what?
And with justice.
With justice. Come on.
From henceforth, even forever.
Even forever. And that's the kingdom of heaven. Ladies, brothers and sisters, we appreciate y'all tuning in. This is IUIC New Jersey with another class. I'm Officer Noah with, to my right,
Soldier Joe.
Hey, make sure that you guys, I'm right here, right? Make sure you guys donate to the Booster Club for everything that we brought out today. For those that want to become delegations in the future, make sure y'all donate. Make sure you send the prophets out to go teach and spread the gospel. We're that close to the end. We're that close to the end. We got a new president in Babylon the Great, and Lord's will, with him comes the ushering in of our kingdom, right? The end of this world, so that we can come out of it and get delivered and go home, right? But make sure you donate to the Booster Club. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our channels. And with that, brothers and sisters, we say shalom. Most High in Christ bless.
What is a nation? Nation is men leading by example. Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. Nation is you.
And finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord. His word, his word.